Welcome back to another video here on Free Will Photos. Today we're going to create an HDR image using ON1 Photo Raw. So if you caught my live stream last night, then you will have already seen this image, but I didn't really go into editing the image. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and jump over to the Browse section. What we're going to do is click and select all three of the images that make this HDR merge. I'm going to right click on one of those three, and then I'm going to click on Create HDR. Now, the other way that you can create an HDR is by highlighting the images that you want to include into your merge, and then click on the HDR option to the far right of your screen. So once you click that, ON1's going to do its computing magic, and it brings you to this module. Now, I'm going to resize this a little bit in hopes of making it a little larger on your screen, because I know that my aspect ratio is not the greatest. Now, I'm not going to go over every single detail that's inside of this particular window, but what I will show you is you have a few options. Now, if you don't have any idea of what an HDR image is, in a nutshell, you're taking two or more exposures and blending them into one. The reason you would want to do this is if you have a really bright area and a really dark area in the same scene. Your camera can really only capture one of those, all right? So if I underexpose or if I expose for the sky, this will be really, really dark. And if I expose for this, then this will be really, really bright. Now, that becomes evident when we come to this image and we're using this as the main exposure. As you can see, I exposed more for the sky in this one, and this is darker. Now, if we come to this image and we look at that exposure, let's just turn these other ones off. This image is exposing for this area, so it's a little bit brighter. Probably helps if I clicked on it to zoom in. But the sky is not very well exposed. It's blown out, essentially. So, and really it's actually pretty decent, not gonna lie. What you would do is down here you would have multiple images, as I have 3, but you could have 7, 9, whatever it may be. All right, I don't know the exact limits to how many photos ON1 can merge at any given time, but when you merge images, sometimes you shake the camera a little bit and you get what's known as ghosting. That is, if something moves or you move the camera, whatever it may be, then ON1 is going to do its best to try and figure out how to merge those images. So you have a few different options, right? You got low, medium, high, and very high. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on creating the HDR itself. If that's something you're interested in, then please let me know and I'll talk through the aspects of all of these modules or these little doohickeys in here. But what I do is I select the image, and I'm going to use this as my actual exposure because I want the base exposure, not the overexposed version, to kind of model my photo off of. I'm going to keep a line on, and I'm going to click on Develop because I want this to open inside of Develop, and I'm using 3 photos to make this image. Now, over on the far right side, you have 2 tabs. First one is Tone and Color. There's no surprise to what this is. I don't spend a whole lot of time inside of here with this tab because once you hit save, it's going to bring you to the develop module. And then same thing with the HDR look, you'll have, and it's my bedtime, you'll have the ability to edit this inside of the effects module once you go back inside of the develop. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, and we will let this figure itself out. It's going to save, and then it's going to open us up in the develop module. Now, from here, you can do all of the things that you would normally do. So first thing that I need to do is crop, because you can see I have some alignment issues going along the side there. So I'm going to hit C, I'm going to grab my level tool, make sure that my horizon is straight, and then I'm just going to pull in on the sides so that way I can crop just the way that I want. Now, I do want this little dock or island, whatever it is, I want that to be in the center of my image. So I'm centering it like so, and then I'm just going to hit return. Now that I have my composition the way that I want, first thing I like to start with is my camera profile. And the landscape one looks pretty good. The portrait one looks kind of cool. And the vivid one is what I really enjoyed. If you caught the live stream, you would have seen that I had vivid. Now, the landscape from the camera is really saturated, and that could be nice, right? Your image is going to be your own masterpiece. But I like the vivid one, so I'm going to leave it on vivid. The next step is exposing for the image. So I'm just going to click on AI Auto here, and this exposes for my image quite nicely, all right? Not the way that I really want it, so I'm just going to pull down the AI Auto, because again, I like drama and contrast in my image. That's just my editing style. Then I'm going to pull up on the vibrance, because I do want more color in my image, and I'm even going to saturate my image a little bit more. So this is where we started. This is where we are with just a few clicks. All right. Now, I like to bring the blacks down in my image, because again, it helps me with creating that drama and that contrast. And I don't really care to open up the shadows a whole lot, right? I actually want to bring those down as well. And you're probably wondering, like, well, why did you even photograph an HDR image then, Chris, if you're just going to keep dark shadows? Well, that's a good question. So now that we are in the effects module, clicking on HDR look, I will pull the compression until I get to a point where I think this is actually pretty good. It's opening up some of the colors on the trees there, and I can mess around with the details. Now, this is actually kind of fun. If you wanted to create something unique, you could just pull the detail out of your image until it gets to a point where it feels good for you, right? But for me, I want to pull the detail up a little bit, because I want this to be a more clear image. And then I'll play with the clarity just a little bit inside of the HDR look. I don't need a whole lot. And I think that will do it, because the shadows and the highlights, I'll bring the highlights down, and that's going to help me with the clouds there. And then too much vibrance, don't want any more. Don't need any more vibrance. So that's all I'm going to do with the HDR look. So turning that off and turning it on, you can see it does its own thing. Now, what I noticed when I was in the live stream is that I need to pull down on my opacity here. Too much of a good thing can be bad. So that works pretty good. I like the way that that looks, maybe a little bit more. All right. Now, what we're going to do is go to Color Enhancer. And the reason I got the Color Enhancer is because I may want to change the temperature of the photo. But I do know that I need to move my yellows towards green. I need to saturate them and brighten them. Then I need to go to my greens, saturate those and brighten those. Maybe even saturate them a little bit more. I want the contrast between the green and the blue to really play in my image. And I'll pull up the range on these and maybe even make the trees just a little bit more green. And then I'll bring my oranges. I'll move those over to yellow. And that just brings like a little hint over there. All right. So I think I'm good with the color enhancer. All right. The next thing that I want to do is come over here to my local adjustments. All right. And I need to make a few adjustments. The first one is I need to make an adjustment to the sky. So what I'm going to do is click on mask and then mask sky. ON1 is going to do its thing, and it's going to mask the sky for me, which is pretty cool, except for it did the wrong thing. So just going to hit Control I, which is my keyboard shortcut for the sky. Yeah, that did a pretty good job on making the sky selected. So we'll go there and we'll pull down some of those highlights. And then I'm going to make the sky a little bit more vibrant and saturate it. And then I'm going to dehaze just a touch. All right. So now I am getting a little bit better selection with the sky. So now I'm just going to feather this because for whatever reason, it just doesn't always, I don't like the halo effect that I'm getting around the trees there. So I'm going to come over to my refinement, and we are going to hit Shift X because we want to paint in, and I'm just going to use the refinement there. You can zoom in just a little bit, and I'll make my brush a little smaller. I'll just paint over these trees. And what ON1's going to try to do is refine these little areas, all right? And it does an okay job, I'm not going to lie. So we'll just jump through this. A little bit better, but not as good as it could be. Again, I'm not going to take too much time because then this video would be that much longer. So now that I got my sky going, I'm going to improve this dock. The way that I do that is by adding in one of these vignettes. I'm going to change this from center to edges, and then I'm just going to pull this in until it is small enough to only cover the confines of the dock, just like so. And then I'm going to increase the exposure and open the shadows. And then I'm going to come to my blend options and see if luminosity helps me a little bit. And I only want to apply this to the darkest areas, which are my shadows. Now, what I can do is I can come down here and contrast that just a touch. So that way it's not like blatantly popping out, but it is going to expose just a little bit, bring down the blacks, right? I don't want it to shine or anything. I just want it to be present. I want you to know that it's there. All right. So then the last thing that I did on this particular image is I added a little bit of a glow. And the way that I did that is I hit the M key to get my masking bug, and I dropped a radio filter on top of the image, and I made like this laser beam that goes the entire distance of the image, or the horizontal plane of the image. I'm going to invert that by hitting Control I, which is again my keyboard shortcut. And then I think Command I is the default shortcut. And then all I'm going to do is increase the temperature. Now, do this sparingly and do it, however you see fit, right? You could like go crazy with it, but I'm not going to go like overboard. Now, what I need in this image is something to tie, like to bring that orange glow together, right? So I'm going to come back over to the effects, hit add filter, and we'll try the sunshine filter. Let's see what happens when I add some sunshine, and I'll warm up the entire thing and increase the amount. Does that? It kind of helps, but maybe a photo filter will do better. So we'll click there, go to our color wheel, and wow, look at that. Now, I did not do this on the original image, and this is just how I edit photos, right? I choose something, I try something out, and I see what may happen. And I think that's kind of cool, right? We went from this, which is kind of plain dull, to this in, you know, however long this video is going to be, with a few clicks of the mouse. So the last thing that I did, and then, you know, actually, before I do that, let me do my signature move here, which is to add a vignette using the radial filter. So I'll pull that in and then feather that out. And I think on this one, it should really... So now there's a lot more interest, and even though I made all of that hard work, I'm going to remove some of the structure in the areas that are not, or that are in the vignette. And now I can come back to my effects, hit add filter, and of course I could throw the borders filter on, and I will scale this bad boy down because, I mean, if you like thick borders, then go for it. But I like my border to be a little thin there. And that is the final image, all right? So this is the before, and this is the after. If you found value in today's content, smash the like button. Consider subscribing to see more content just like this. And until the next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.